I want to start out with saying that it's extremely important to see each event separate. This is a crime scene. Something happened, but what? You really need to dig very deep into all the details, all the evidence, and so on before you jump into any conclusions, or I would say to avoid jumping into any conclusion, because it's like I've spent some 30 years doing this, and I find that it's only the facts that are important. It is only the truth that matters. It's not to prove my own so-called theory or anything like that. The only thing that can help the world is what is going on and who is doing it to us. So just like you said, extremely important to find out, are we either in a world filled with crazy Muslim terrorists waking up screaming Allah Akbar and then planting bombs everywhere, or is there something totally different going on? And over the years, I started, because in the beginning I had no idea. I had no idea that anything of this was connected in any way or form, including many of these top assassinations we've looked into together, like with JFK, Martin Luther King, Robert Kennedy, and so on. I had no idea. But then over the years, I found more and more very strong links between these things. And it's come to a point since, I think, about 2014, where I found out that they have to leave clues for the next upcoming event. And the reason for that is from insiders I have from inside the New World Order, that the way they interpret the law of karma is that if they tell us what they're up to, even in subtle forms or in media or in films, but hidden there, but still tell us, and we do not act or react, then that karma is on our shoulders, not theirs. And they are terrified of that, to get the whole on their shoulders. I think it's a very twisted way of seeing the law of karma. I think there's no way that they will get away once it's time to knock on the pearly gates or wherever it is. You do, and it comes back to you.
Right.
So once I started seeing that they are actually doing that, they are actually leaving clues in the evidence. From that moment on, I've been just so deep into every single one of these events, digging, trying to find out, where is it? I know it's here somewhere. I know it is. And after that, I've been able to publicly predict, I think, about 4 international radio where I pointed out the exact location and the most probable time. And many times I hit spot on, bullseye. And another 4, 5, 6, I don't know how many other ones that also I predicted and that they came out. But some I predicted that did not happen. And then you can ask yourself, did I make a mistake, or was it because there was a lot of exposure around this thing that had made them have to shut it down? And, like I'm a friend with CIA whistleblower Chip Tatum. He was part of false flags in his career as well. And I've got confirmation from him several times. And what he says is every single time we stop these kind of operations, the timeline is so tight and so detailed. So it's very important for these dark forces that every single part of these operations goes through so that they can then come in with their solution of follow-up operations and so on. So every time we mess it up for them or stop one, it can mess it up for months down the line.
Right. That is a great point. And, I definitely want to get into those clues and patterns you've been dissecting, but also one element that I think is super interesting that you were telling me about on Skype is that you seem to have found a major player in the Global Terror Tour with this company, Crisis Solutions. They have some pretty incriminating statements and content on their website even, it seems. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
I would prefer to wait a little bit, but then again, I'll be happy to do it. It was after the Westminster Bridge attack where there was, as you know, in these so-called false flag operations, one of the main ingredients is the drill. There's always a drill before the real event goes live. And that drill is there for these actors, or whatever you want to call them, to get vehicles in positions, explosives in positions, cameras, crisis actors, directors, all of it. It's like a moving film set that they're actually doing. where I don't call these things a terror attack. I call them a media event where the product is terror. The product is fear, to pump it out through mainstream media, which they control to a large extent, so that the population will be totally terrified, thus accepting and even welcoming more and more control, more and more Robocops, more and more CCTV cameras, more and more body scanners in airports, train stations, you name it, and also justifying these incredible, horrific wars that are being started based on these alleged terror attacks that never took place.
Mm-hmm.
But that, yet again, you have to look at each and every single event, because sometimes, even though it's a so-called false flag operation, there can be real victims, but there are also many times only crisis actors, or it can be a mixture of both. One of the things that, after all of these years, a while ago, this company, Crisis Solutions, popped up on my radar. And when I started looking into that, I just got goosebumps everywhere, because I felt, oh my God, this is the head of the octopus in the operational part on a street level, if I am correct. On their website, they even have, it's crisis-solutions.com. They're based in the UK, in England, with headquarters in London. But when you go there, there are no signs on the walls. There are no, you can't press any buttons. There's no logos. There's nothing. I've had people on location there. And the people that work, it's only like a 4 or 5 people team itself, maybe 8, with very, very suspicious backgrounds into military intelligence and a lot of these things that are needed for security, yes, but also if you want to pull these things off to create terror so that all of very brutal solutions will be welcomed. And you can go on their website, and I think it's under products or something like that. You can go, and it's called Crisis Cloud. And in that video, it's a very type of video with, there's some animations going on. When you look at these animations, it's actually 666 that is sort of rotating into each other. And then what they say is, when did you last have a crisis simulation? They call it crisis simulations with players. And now we at Crisis Solutions, we have now taken this to a whole new level. Shoveling A4 papers and using telephones, and so that is out of the window. We don't use that anymore. Now it's high tech. And so they present what they call Crisis Cloud. And in this video, they show exactly how it's done. There are different units. There are like the tactical teams on the street level. These tactical units are like SWAT teams, police, ambulances, firefighters, these type of things, crisis actors on a street level. And please keep in mind, just because somebody looks like a firefighter does not mean that he is actually one. It's just a uniform. Just because somebody got a SWAT team uniform does not mean that they're actually SWAT team members from that country. Just because somebody's got a police uniform on, just because somebody's driving an ambulance. When you started tracking down these vehicles, often these vehicles are rented from private companies, then used in these operations. So there's the tactical teams. Then I think there's what they call the C unit, where that is more, like the people from the heads of different companies, the heads of security, where they sit and brainstorm. And then you got another unit. There are different units, and all of them are connected into this, what they call Crisis Cloud, which is online, and where they say that the only thing you need as a player is to have internet access. So people can sit on the Bahamas with a big cigar and a laptop and be part of carrying out these so-called crisis simulations that are identical to these alleged terror attacks. And then what they do is also they have a unit in the middle that in live time can change and update these whole things, so that if anything occurs, if somebody like myself tried to stop it or interfere, they can redirect in live time. And what they also have is information part of the whole thing with a live feed into live media. They deliver live news for TV and others. I mean, in these simulations, I wonder who these type of TV news are aimed at. I would suggest us. They've got Twitter feeds in the hundreds, Facebook things in the hundreds that are all connected to this. So there are whole units sitting there when these simulations go on, are sitting there spreading all of this disinformation, whatever, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, to TV news, where they've got crews that are putting together fake news as part of the simulation being pumped out there. And what they say, they brag about it in this video. They say now we can even do multiple simulations at the same time. You don't even have to be in the same country. So they given us example. They give Edinburgh in Scotland, where there was a drill, then Manchester, where there was an attack later, and then New York City, where we had the Times Square attack also. These three at the same time. You know, at the same time, 3 different attacks or more at the same time, and they can coordinate the whole thing. So I tell you, this is what we're up against.
Right.
There's another page on their websites. I think it's under clients, testimonials. And there's this, I don't know who it is, who's writing a story about how it was so exciting. They were up in this high-rising building with a fantastic view over London. I think it's the Millbank Tower, where I would say some part of the attack, the Westminster Bridge attack, the first London attack on the 22nd of March this year, which I predicted 1 month before it happened, with the exact spot, the Parliament, Big Ben. Anyway, he says that they were standing up there looking over this. There was this tension in the air, you know, because it was the biggest simulation that they've ever had taken place of. And he says there were people from 80 corporations present. That's 80 corporations present in the room overlooking this whole thing.
Wow.
And then it was carried out, and afterwards everybody was cheering and applauding, and oh my God, we did it. You know, simulation. I tell you, what is actually there is a description of them in that tower watching that operation at the London Bridge. Because also they were the ones who carried out the drill on the River Thames 3 days before this happened, with the same vessel that was then part of the rescue search for a woman that had been thrown off the bridge and so on.
Wow. Man, so that is a lot to digest. Of course, people should take a look at crisis-solutions.com. And to get a little deeper into the actual events, obviously we can't cover everything that's happened since the last time we talked, because there's just been so many events. But if we were to look harder at the attack in Manchester on May 22nd of this year at the Ariana Grande concert, I know this is one you've talked about a lot, but it has quite a few clues surrounding it that kind of suggest it was a simulation, right?
Can I just jump back and say about Crisis Solutions? When I went out and pointed them out, I mean, this is a bit scary for someone like me. I'm a one-man band, you know, to put a accusing finger at something like that. I mean, they could just sue me from here to the moon. I went out on a program called SGT Report, and in 2 weeks, that interview had some 280,000 views. So there was a massive exposure suddenly looking at that. And their website just disappeared from the internet. It just disappeared. So I went out on other programs and said, is this normal I mean, this is a super website, you know, a big company. They would have it up on the air, boom, like this, if it was a technical issue. So wouldn't you say that this could possibly show signs of like a criminal mind that just want to hide what they're doing and disappear? So I pointed people to a cached version on the internet. I spread the link everywhere saying you can download and see their website here, even though it's shut down. And also there's the video, everything. So download it, save it, and spread it everywhere. Then after 2 days after I pointed saying, look, they're trying to hide, boom, it's back there up again. So I don't know. I'm just saying, I think that there's some, I would hope and believe that there's a whole lot of truth involved in what I'm saying about this company.
Right.
And that company, I believe, is also connected with Crisis Cast in the US, which it was the company that had a drill very close to the Pulse Club, the mass shooting in Orlando. I also believe that their connection with this company to another company called NC4 and another British company called Bell Pottinger. So I think what we're looking at are, like when you study the CIA, for instance, you will see that there are hundreds and hundreds of front companies intertangled into this web. So it makes it very hard to get a grip of what are you looking at. And also they shut down companies, open up new ones, rename them and so on. So it's at all times changing. And here I think that I believe that I found a thread into the head of the octopus on the operational party of what I call the global tour of terror. Because if I'm correct after all of these years, and I think I got a quite good,
track record, yeah.
Track record since I have been able to predict these things. Because how can I, just an ordinary guy, predict terror attacks? I mean, that's ridiculous. And if I can, wouldn't it be a natural thing for the security police or forces of these different countries where this happens, where I'm able to point it out before it happens, to contact me and say, either you must be involved in this, or how could you tell? But there's always silence, 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 silence. The reason? Because they're totally involved.
Mm-hmm.
So please also notice that all of the countries, more or less, where these things happen are members of NATO. And it's around and round in circles like a teddy bear, the same countries, the same cities, the same police districts again and again and again and again. And also the dates, they love these dates, so they repeat the same dates again and again and again for different reasons.
Right. Like often the 22nd and often March 22nd, which of course 322 is that famous Skull and Bones number.
Yeah.
Who knows if it's connected, but that date definitely does pop up more than a few times.
Oh, that is a real, I mean, it's just a matter of where, many times I say the next one is going to be on, for instance, the 22nd of May. Like you say, they love the 22nd of different months. And it's just a matter of sitting, waiting. Okay, so where is it going to blow up? I said 2 days before the Manchester attack, because it is also the 22nd of May. That is more or less exactly 1 week before the Bilderberg meeting, which is extremely important in this agenda. So every year before the meeting that keeps changing locations all over the world, in the Western world, they have a distraction. Media is starting to say, "Ooh, is it really true that these old guys are sitting smoking cigars and planning for the New World Order? Could that be true?" So there's this focus starting to aim at this group that should have been exposed 50 years ago, if you ask me. Anyway, so what they do is they pull something up over to the left. The whole attention is just changed in that direction, wherever that is. So 2 days before the Manchester, I said within the next few days, there's going to be another one to distract from the Bilderberg meeting. 2 days later, boom, in Manchester this time.
Right, at that concert.
At that concert. And I would like to point out also that it's not that I've been able to predict like, this is going to happen in England, this is going to happen in England, this is going to happen in England. This is international. This whole thing of where we see, terrorism is everywhere. No. What I believe is happening, and I'm getting it confirmed from more and more sources, is that what we're looking at is like a rock group on tour, like the Rocky Horror Show, a small little unit that is with the exact same demands, more or less, as a rock band on tour or a theater group on tour, but like a film set, a mobile film set unit with everything from marketing agencies, directors, pyrotechnics, experts in explosives, smoke bombs, crisis actors, amputee actors, catering, the whole shebang. exactly like if you want to do a Coca-Cola ad and you do an international shoot where you go from country to country. Here, this product is terror. That's the thing. They need to keep us fearful for us to accept their agenda.
Right.
So when they leave these clues, the clues is for the next upcoming, or now they've started to put clues for multiple targets. I think this is very recent, the last 6 months or so, where the clues are pointing in more than one direction. So this is why, for instance, if you remember the Berlin truck attack, and then there was a mass shooting in a nightclub in Istanbul. Then there was another one in Jerusalem, a truck attack there. Then you had the Fort Lauderdale shooting. Then you had the Melbourne car attack, and so on and so on. Also, I want to come back to why there's so many vehicles involved, because that's part of the agenda as well here now.
Mm-hmm.
So the theme, they have different themes, they have different color codes, and they got almost like a secret language involved in these operations so that members of their fearing group all over the world can see, aha, this is our operation. They don't need to know the details. They just know, aha, this is one of ours.
Right.
That's one of ours, and so on.
Right. So how do we know, like, for example, that Manchester Ariana Grande concert bombing was one of their events? Because this is one that I got a lot of pushback from people who were like, there's no way this was a false flag attack. There's no way this was a simulation. But yet it actually seems more like one than a lot of others based on the clues that you've dissected.
That one is very, very difficult because it is just like you say, how can you or I say that a whole stadium, I mean, officially it was sold out, 21,000 people in there. How can you say that it didn't happen? Because, I mean, 21,000 witnesses would say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And how could they do that with like 22 victims? Are you saying that this is fake, that these deaths are not real? What I can say is that if you had 21,000 fans in there, teenage girls with their favorite pop star on stage, wouldn't you think that more than 3 or 4 of them would have a cell phone with a camera? Don't you think any of them would start filming if something just blew up and people were lying dead all over? I mean, they take photos of a hamburger and put on Facebook. Don't you think one of the most traumatic things in their life that someone would have taken photos? Don't you think that the CCTV cameras that are there all over the place in this very modern, it's one of the biggest, if not the biggest arenas in Europe, would have security cameras? Of course they have, because when you got big football games or soccer games or whatever, if there's panic or a fire, or the security company, which this event, it's a company called Shosek, they need to have control and see what's going on. If one exit is blocked or whatever, they need to be able to see the whole thing so that they can redirect and get people out safely. Here, no CCTV cameras. The parking lots outside were more or less empty. The footage that is in there where they say, well, look at this. I mean, that you can really say, you can't see anything. There's no panic as such. There are people in the stadium, yes. There are people leaving the stadium, yes. There's a person on stage saying, no panic, just take it easy. If everybody could just please leave the building, with an American accent as well. And there's nothing of the photo from the crime scene. There's one photo of the alleged crime scene. Nothing where you can see that this guy blew himself up. And they couldn't pinpoint where he blew himself up. There were 3 different locations before they finally agreed on, no, it was there. That's where it happened. And the people that were hurt there are men in their 50s.
Right. No teenage girls.
I would say, where are all the teenage girls? Then you have outside, you always, when there are these false flags, you always have high quality photos that are being spread showing victims that are being led around or lying dead. As soon as the police is involved, super high quality. Then as soon as there's something where the guy or individual that they blame it on, there's this CCTV camera footage or whatever, super blurred, or photos. It will always be the same, that this Islamic terrorist, he will have like a bandana and a cap on, and he's moving, so it's blurry. And you can't see his face, you can't see anything, you can't see the background. All of that is really important as evidence. You will never see that. So here outside the stadium in Manchester, we see there's like a handful of photos taken by a photographer called Joel Goodman. And they're super quality, but it's not like 24,000 people in absolute panic running around. They're walking around, sitting, chilling, drinking water, and so on. Also, there's a few videos where you see parents running around looking for their child, especially a man who's running around, shouting out for his daughter, but he's filming himself, his own face, while he's running around. Would you do that if you were in total panic? Would you film yourself while running around looking for your daughter? And it's like, Ellen, 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 Ellen,
Pretty strange.
Pretty strange. And then, like I said, when there are these rock concerts and so on, all the parking spaces in that whole part of town or the city will be occupied, packed. Here, totally calm, they're half empty. You got the police, ambulances. Where are the photos of all the dead? Where are the photos of all the wounded? Where are they? Where are all the different press photographers? Where are all the people of these 21,000 outside the stadium taking photos as well? Nothing. That's nothing. Then the firefighters in Manchester, as soon as they heard of it that very night, just minutes after it happened, or allegedly happened, they were on their way to help, of course. And they were told, stand down. You're not allowed to get close to this area. Stand down. This is also standard procedure in these operations, where normal, decent people want to come and help, but they are not allowed to interfere because it's a totally different operation in the center. Normal police and military will be put in the outer parameters of where this happened to close off street, keep traffic out, keep us out, because normal people are not allowed to be too nosy and see, whoa, what's actually happening here. Then also, so was there a drill? Yes, there was a drill 1 year before in a mall just a stone's throw away. Very similar. It was actually a mass shooting. And the guy that took the photos at the drill was the same photographer that is there responsible for all the high quality photos now.
Yeah, that's incredibly unlikely.
Also, when you see the English Queen after all of these attacks in England, which, by the way, please keep in mind how close these things were to the British elections and also the whole Brexit thing in the UK. It was just a few days before the referendum and election as well. So major political tension in this country. And then boom, 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 these things happen. Okay, so the Queen went to the hospital to shake hands with the victims, teenage girls. And there's all of these footage where she walks around with these girls and they're in bed, in hospital beds, but they're dressed in civilian clothes underneath the blanket. I don't know. Last time I went to a hospital, even if I had sort of like a splint in my toe, I had to undress and put on these awful clothes, hospital clothes, But here they are in their own civilian clothes, all of them lying in different beds. Also, the Queen walks around shaking hands with the staff, and two of the nurses says, well, we had an exercise a month ago, and now this just went like clockwork. So what exercise and why did it go like clockwork? So you really have to question this thing. Then also photos of people, like these people surrounding outside the stadium and so on, also in the early morning hours. They're walking around with suitcases on wheels and stuff like. I mean, if you go to a rock concert, would you bring a suitcase? And there are multiple of these suitcases. Also, some researchers have said that with facial recognition, that there's more than one of these alleged crisis actors that have been taking part of Sandy Hook and others. There's also a very strange one. Do you remember there was just 1 week before the Orlando shooting, which was also right before the Brexit referendum in the UK. And the Brexit referendum was about, should England leave the European Union or stay? Should they become sort of stay out or join the European Union?
Right.
That is what Brexit is about. And so this internet sensation singer, Christine Grimmie, I think she was in The Voice, and she had a concert just a few days before the Pulse shooting happened. It was in Orlando, Florida as well. And the band was called Before You Exit Brexit. Anyway.
Right.
So what she did was she had a concert there, and she was just about to go out and sign some autographs for her fans when she sent her last Twitter, because she was gunned down right after that, officially. And the Twitter message she sent out was, shoot me down, bang, bang, shoot me down, bang, bang, shoot me down, bang, bang. And then she went out and was shot down with 3 shots.
Wow.
And once again, no footage, they cut the videos exactly when, crap, all of it crap. Then the whole funeral thing, people were laughing in the background at the funeral, this duping delight. I totally questioned that whole thing. And it was right before the Brexit. Then you had the stabbing of Joe Cox, an MP in England, just 2 days before also the Brexit election, to get the emotions going. They were trying to force the UK to stay in Europe,
Right.
So anyway, so we had the exact same thing in Sweden when 2 days before, when there was a referendum in Sweden about the euro as a currency, if Sweden should keep their old krona or join the euro. And these forces that were, what I'm talking about, the same force behind all of these, what is called the New World Order, they tried to force the Swedish population to join the euro. But Sweden didn't want it. So they tried with all type of propaganda, didn't want it. So what they did was instead they stabbed the Swedish foreign minister, a woman, almost in an identical assassination as the Joe Cox murder in England, where she was stabbed in a supermarket very brutally. And she was the icon for the euro. So people in Sweden was like, oh my God, that is so horrible. That is so horrible. So even if they were against the euro before the killing, then now out of sympathy for her family and so on, they voted pro the euro. So they almost got Sweden to vote for the euro, didn't go all the way. Anyway, so there are this thing of, if you can't, use logic to get a population to vote the way you want, then you go emotional. And it's always women and children. That's the way to get the emotions going.
Right.
Kill them and you will get your way.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so there was this shoot me down, bang, bang. But before the Manchester thing, one of the victims in that was a girl called Calendar. And she tweeted just before this happened, I miss you so much, Ariana. Can't wait to see you on the Danger Woman tour. It's going to kill me. And then right before she died, she sent a text message, a tweet, kill me, kill me, kill me. Please tell me they're coming to Manchester. Shoot me down 3 times, kill me, kill me, kill me. What is that? These type of bizarre, where these satanic undertones that are very obvious once you start looking into these things become very clear.
Right.
And then that is a very, very strange, also this victim, this young girl Calendar, because her mother at the funeral, it seems like it's the same individual that is the daughter is now the mother, but with a fat suit. I kid you not. I kid you not. This woman, she's like a big blonde wig, and she's got this leopard top on and jeans. And when her husband or partner is hugging her at the funeral, when he touches her back, the whole back is moving.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a normal body where the hand, even if you're sort of overweight, your arm would just sort of like move into the body flesh or whatever, or fat tissue. But here it moves. So I'm telling you, I truly believe that is not a real death, and that funeral not real. And also one of the things that you will see many, many times in the UK when these type of things happen is that the news footage from funerals, from press conferences and so on, it's a company called ITN Productions. It's not ITN News, it's ITN Productions. And their specialty is like daylight soap operas and theater shows and so on. So I tell you, what are we looking at? Are we looking at theater here as well? This is what I would suggest.
I think I heard you mention that Ariana Grande's manager actually met with Netanyahu a few weeks before, which is a little suspicious if that really occurred.
I've got photos from that meeting. His name is Scooter, and he's a Jewish man he was a manager for Justin Bieber, for Ariana Grande. And please also remember that one of Ariana Grande's so-called friends is Nicki Minaj, who was right at the Westminster Bridge the day before the alleged terror attack on the 22nd of March, where they shot a video called No Fraud on the exact spot where two of the victims is said to have been killed. And she was standing with the Big Ben in the background, waving an English flag, postcards right in the background. There's exact same postcards that the very next day, within less than 24 hours, are lying spread around one of the victims.
Wow.
Also, when you look at these artists' videos and you see what people they've signed up with, how the whole music scene has been totally hijacked nowadays by the same very dark force, and how these videos are pumped with Freemasonic messages and symbols, and it's a very sad thing to see. So here we have this with Ariana Grande, beautiful young singer, but at the memorial, there were a concert where she was singing for the victims, and she talks about this calendar girl and says, she asked me to sing this hit. And when she says hit, she just breaks out laughing. Not like that little. She has to hold her mouth because it's like, what is that?
Yeah.
What is that?
Man.
It should be the exact opposite thing. You've had a concert, and the thing was, it didn't happen when she had just gone off stage, they say, and then boom, this thing happened.
Damn.
And then there was one young gay guy who was killed officially, and his parents, when you see interviews with him, his name is Martin Heft, or was Martin Heft, when you see interview with his parents, they're sitting smiling. They're saying, he always wanted to be famous, and now finally he made it. We're so happy for our son and son. Their son was officially blown up with a nail bomb like a few days before. Would you sit and smile and talk about how lucky he is to finally be famous?
I would not.
What is that?
Right. Time is just going by so quickly. There's so much to talk about with each of these events, but I guess it was a license plate detail at the Manchester event in the footage there that led you to the next event?
Yeah. But first I just want to say, how could they pull it off if it was fake? Because often you have, like in the drill, that's where they film all the footage that is then used as live footage, so that they can control and get everything correct with rehearsing and everything. And then once it's there, all the good quality photos is there, then that is being pumped out as live footage when the news goes live and so on. But how could they do this? I would say nowadays when you have a rock concert, most tickets are sold online. And so they say, okay, at 12 o'clock, we will release these tickets. And so within half an hour or 2 hours, boom. Many times it's sold out. So what really happened? Is it possible that the people in charge of this whole thing, what they did was they just said, okay, we're going to release all the tickets at 12 o'clock. And at 12 o'clock, they just made the phone lines busy for like an hour or two and then said, oh, sorry, now it's all sold out. And that way we would think, oh, there's 21,000 inside, but actually maybe it was totally empty. And people are saying, but how can you say this? It's awful. And I agree. The last thing I want is to disrespect anyone that has been hurt by this. But you have to question, because we're just scraping on the surface now. And I've said to so many, please, if you were there, if you have someone, if you know someone, or if you were there and got injured, please contact me. I have looked into so many of these terror attacks in Paris and Denmark and Sweden. I've been on location on most of them with undercover footage. I've said everywhere, please contact me. No one has contacted me. It's always, well, my brother's sister's uncle was there, or I have a friend I work with, his daughter was there. But to get in direct touch, to this day, I have not been able to. So also, one of the guys that they help out, you had all of these young victims, but the photos are often of old guys. And one of the guys that they bring out looks like a former military guy. So I looked into it, and I tell you, this guy's name, if I'm correct, is Paul Campion. And he's a former SAS, Special Forces. And right after this, he was then appearing in media, in TV stations, being interviewed, not as a victim, but as an expert on that attack in Manchester and on the London Bridge attack in London. And also he's been appearing about ISIS. So I would suggest they're using the same small little unit again and again. So the thing you asked about is that since I know that they need to leave clues, I looked everywhere. And one of the things that I found weird was this photo of the alleged victims, where all of them are middle-aged guys lying around on the floor. And on the floor, there are like two lines that looks like blood, but parallel lines. So it's like, that was strange. So I just noted it because I've checked everything. And I tried to look into all the details, put notes on everything. Note. And then on the 3rd of June, we had an additional attack. It's the London Bridge attack happened. Okay, so at the London Bridge attack, it said that there was this van with Muslims that drove up and down, and then they decided, no, we got to kill some people. So they drove up, killed some people with a van on the pavements and so on, then jump out of the van, ran around with knives, stabbed multiple people. They were into multiple different pubs, then ran out. The police arrived, and all three of these alleged terrorists were shot dead on the spot. 50 shots fired, they claim, the most ever in England, and all three dead, not a single drop of blood, nothing. And all of it done in 8 minutes, from the first person was hit by the van to all of that around, to multiple pubs, multiple stabbings, all of that, and then until the minute they were shot dead. So very efficient police, I must say, if you believe it. Anyway, so when they were filming this, one of the things I always look for is like when there's news footage and something, maybe they're standing filming right into a wall, where there's a sign or something, just for like 20 seconds, and then they move the camera to the reporter or something. I always question, why are they filming that? What is the reason? And if something happens and the camera is on before it happens, that tells you that person is in on it. They knew it was going to happen. Why would they have the camera on if they weren't expecting something? So these are the things I look for, and that is sometimes where I find a clue. And on the London Bridge attack, the camera in the night, it was just panning across this dark bridge. There was a police officer, and then there was a small English car, black with 2 red stripes over it. So I thought, whoa. And the camera sort of stopped for a little while, paused, filming the car right in the center of the footage, and then moved on. So I was like, whoa, hang on. And it reminded me of these 2 red stripes, because that is how they do it, these subtle signs and so on. So also the thing was that the number plates was KE11NXT. So I thought NXT in my world, that means next. Mm-hmm. So KE11, I was like, what does that mean? Is it KE2 is 1-1? Is that 2? The key to next. This car is the key to the next. So I went out on Facebook saying, please, this might be a clue. Please try and see if you can decode it together with me. So there were all of these suggestions and so on. And also I tracked down the car. Turned out that this car had changed number plates 4 times in just a few years, and not to some cool name like Mr. Cool or something like, no, totally ordinary number plates. Why would they change that 4 times in just a few years? And it was also registered very close to one of the film companies in London. So I thought that car, we need to look into it. So I was trying to figure it out, and boom, then happened the so-called the Grenfell Tower fire in London, where massive fire, this high tower building went up in a flame that, the fire spread in seconds, in minutes. The whole tower was just one massive big, like a gas flame, It didn't follow any normal logic when it comes to how this fire was spreading. And then I found out that tower was in Kensington, postcode 11. So KE11 next,
Wow.
So anyway, that fire, bizarre fire, very, very strange fire. And it was almost like they changed the game plan, because it was, instead of the normal way they do this, here it was almost like they were putting like an ambush for people like myself. Because one of the things they did was for one thing, they were interviewing all of these witnesses. And once again, no tears, no shaking, no being pale and in shock, even though people were talking about horrific stuff, like babies being thrown out from windows and their friends and families being burnt to death. I'm a former journalist, so I've been to these kind of locations. When things like that happen, people, they don't make sense. People are running around screaming, totally out of their head. When you speak to them, they can't put together sentences, or they're shaking, or they're totally pale, or they're sweaty, or they're totally quiet, and so on. But here we see once again, very calmly, well, and then these people burn in. And officially, that building lodged some 500 to 600 people. But there were no people out in the streets in the pajamas, even though it started in the evening, late evening. There were no children running around. There was no people with like black in their face, nothing like that. And also the flames, the way the building just went up in flames was just incredible. And this is where they interviewed a young rapper, and he seemed really trustworthy. I totally bought it to start with, because he said that, oh my God, is it not an accident? Because here they were given loads of money to fix up these buildings. There were several tower blocks there, and they haven't done anything. The only thing they've done is change the cladding on the outside into some plastic thing. And that is why this fire went so fast. Okay, so he said also the elevators, they didn't work, and it would have cost 60,000 to fix them. They were giving like £1 million or more, and they didn't do anything of this. So this is arson. So what happened after that was that suddenly, the last time I checked, there was about 190 similar towers in the UK alone, where the fire authority says there's the same fire hazard in that tower building. There's the same there, there's the same there, there's the same there. So suddenly you have what I would call ethnic cleansing. They're getting rid of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, most of the time from minority, from all over the world, poor people, lots of, like unemployed and so on. And these buildings are often in areas that is where property prices are just skyrocketing. So what better way to clean that whole thing out by saying, for your security, we will deport you. So now they're shipping all of these poor people up to the north of England, up to Manchester, Leicester, up north, hundreds of kilometers, also forcing them to take the train down to work for peanuts, up and down, several hundred kilometers up and down every day, while they can then rebuild these towers, but into super luxury apartments.
Right. And there's the insurance angle as well.
They are going to get paid out. I'm not sure if it's paid out yet, but it's the highest ever in the UK. They changed the insurance a few months before this happened, and it's going to be the biggest payout ever in the UK. I wouldn't say for sure the number, but it is very, very high. But then also you had the gas pipes on the outsides of the walls. Normally you build them in for security. In these buildings, they were on the outside. And for years, people have been complaining, saying this is a fire trap, you know. And also there are people testifying, saying that the gas entry, sort of the entry pipes into the buildings were messed with. So when you look at the flames, the speed of that whole thing, that is a gas fire. That is not just a tower fire. You know, they say that it was a fridge that exploded. Fair enough. Fridges can explode. But then you would have one fire in one apartment, and then possibly that could spread to the next apartment, maybe on top. And that, if you didn't manage to turn it out, would then spread to the next one. But we're talking like concrete buildings and stuff. Here, like a flamethrower, just woof. And then you had a fire drill just a few days before this happened, where the fire authorities came and said, if there is a fire, for your own safety, just lock yourself in your apartment. I mean, that is sort of like a death trap.
Right, right.
Then we started having questions around, where are the 500 or 600 people here? I mean, there were people in wheelchairs. The elevators are said not to work. I mean, you should have a box of people. But here we were told 17 victims. Then that went up, I think, I'm not sure because they keep changing 84 or something like that now, the official story. So 84, that means where are the rest of the 500 or 600? Where are they?
Right.
And I don't know. I don't know. But I think if, once again, I'm speculating, I believe that these towers might have been evacuated beforehand. I don't know how they did it, but I don't think that there were 500 people in there. And if so, where are the bodies? Because even though you burn to death, there will still be a body. But here, very few body bags. And also, the bodies that are being carried out are taken out by people from a funeral home, not forensic. Like, I mean, this is a crime scene, a possible crime scene. There would be forensic detectives there for months. They would be taking care of everything, you know, going through the whole building. As far as I know, nope. And then they had a whole lot, you know, people were so kind to donate the food and clothes and stuff, but there were no people to collect it.
Interesting.
Yep.
So yeah, that one seems definitely suspicious. Another big insurance play like we saw at 9/11, plus obviously some other multifaceted agendas. As we're getting to the halfway point, I wanted to ask you what you see in the future. You know, you've dissected a couple of these. You've been able to predict them and foresee where the next attack might be or the next media event might be. What are you thinking now before we get into the second hour? What can you tell us about recent clues or what you think might be next in line?
Well, in the second part, I think if we can go into more details around all the things that followed afterwards, because it's just an ongoing. But I believe that there was like a wave of alleged terror, and there was a wave of exposure where I was trying, and other researchers, incredible researchers, were doing everything they could to expose it. And after that, it's come to almost like a standstill. And I hope we can keep it like that. You know, there's some minor, ridiculous, small ones. There's a lot of alleged accidents also that we're going to cover in the second hour with vehicles involved that are also there to just pump fear in and prepare the population, global population, for so-called smart cities. But if I have a say, we are going to stop this and get our beautiful world back in balance.
Well said. And I think you were talking about some of the clues involve the Statue of Liberty or New York City, perhaps. Are those still in the cards? Is that still something you're considering?
No, this was after the 22nd of March attack, but it is still there because the targets that they choose are almost always the same. The targets they choose are either a location with a touristic value, with a national identity, like the Eiffel Tower, the Twin Towers, Times Square, you got Acropolis, Venice, these type of places, the Colosseum in Rome. But they're running out of that. They've tried these places. And the second type of target that they've been focusing at are centers of transportation, like airports, train stations, bus stations, and also vehicles of transportation, like trains, planes, buses, and so on. But now, since they're running out, there are not that many, and they've used more or less all of them the last few years since there's been so many different attacks. So now they moved into, I would say, more and more arenas like rock concerts, sports events, and so on, where the rock star or the team are this symbol, this national symbol, where if they hit that, you will get the same emotional impact, because it's always the emotional impact they want. They always build it on their old Roman template: problem, reaction, solution. They, the human powers, secretly create a problem to get us into total fear mode, going, oh my God, we need protection. And then we turn towards the ones that we believe are there to protect us, not understanding that it's actually them who create. The only way we can solve this problem is by, and in comes their solution. And the solution every single time is something we would never ever have accepted had it not been for the problem, reaction, solution. So this is why they want us in fear mode all the time, so that we will beg for protection. But the ones that we need protection against are the ones that are offering us protection, because they are the ones that are doing it to us.
Well said. Well, wise words, man. It is always a pleasure to have you here. You're so jam-packed full of information, and you've gotten so good at tracking this campaign and noticing the patterns that you can almost make a terror attack predictions calendar at this point. And before we go, would you like to remind the people where they can support you and dig deeper into the stuff you got going on?
Greg, I got a terror calendar on my website.
Oh, wow. Nice.
No, exactly for that reason, so that you can see the specific dates that you need to be aware of and so on. So it will help to predict. So my website is lightonconspiracies.com, lightonconspiracies.com. I'm a one-man band who has devoted more than half my life to do everything I can to expose these forces, not financed by anyone. So if anyone respects what I'm doing or would like to support, it is extremely appreciated. I've got Patreon. It's patreon.com/lightonconspiracies. I've got donation buttons. I've got my monthly newsletter, where I try to decode these operations and also predict them. I've predicted several in these newsletters. It comes out the first every month. It's quite a long newsletter. Lots of photos where I point out these clues and details that you have to be aware of and so on. Also, I've got a membership area. I've got multiple books on Amazon and so on. So it's extreme. And also, if you would like me to come to wherever you are, I am willing to do anything I can to help lift this world to the next level. So if that means going into speaking to SWAT teams, military, gangs, Hells Angels, or schools, universities, politicians, you name it. But I am not strong financially, because this is not the way you go for fame and fortune, I'll tell you that one. But
True.
Get me there, and I would do anything I can.
Awesome. I love it, man. You really are on their tail very closely, and you do great work, man. It is always an honor and a pleasure. Keep doing what you do and stay safe out there.
Is it okay with you if I finish with a prayer?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm not a religious person, but here it goes. May the entire universe be filled with peace and joy, love and light. May everyone, and especially the ones who heard us, be filled with peace and joy, love and light. May the light of truth overcome all darkness. Victory to that light. And I also want to point out that I've started my own podcast called Light on Conspiracies, where I created a platform for people that are normally not on other shows, that have no voice or no ways to get these things out. I have really high level experts as well. Cyril Wecht, the pathologist, Barbara Honecker, former White House employee, Chip Tatum, former assassin, Jim Fetzer, John Barber, 5-time Emmy Award winner, but also, normal people. Like today I interviewed a woman who just ended up right in the middle of this London Bridge attack and got her best friend murdered here. But now when she's trying to find out what happened, nothing adds up. It just doesn't make any sense at all. So she's walking around wondering, is he alive? Is he dead? I mean, nothing matches up, and she's devastated. I've also interviewed recently the Apache Nation in the San Carlos reservation, trying to expose what's going on there. Absolute horrible things that they had to endure and so on. So please visit that one as well. And thank you so much for creating this platform, Greg, for giving the opportunity for this type of information to get out there.
Absolutely, man. Right on. You're just always on this stuff. You got your details down, clearly very passionate, and I appreciate it.